Confession time. I do not watch TV. I hate being stuck in a certain place at a certain time.
Yeah, that's my story too. I mean, years of working in kitchens and random shifts and things like that. Thank God for internet services.
Yeah. Now, as we stated last week, this is going to be kind of our topic. I guess it's best boiled down to on-air versus online. The pluses and the minuses as far as comparing the two.
And there's certainly they have their own advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, we're doing this with a pretty low production value. You're watching us online right now.
Yeah. So, that's going to be our topic for today. I'm Ollamh.
I'm Outlander.
Welcome to the Nerdening.
So don't tell me how to act or how I should be. All we wanted is to be free. We don't want to be like you. You see, we just act a little crazy, and we're following the heartbeats. We don't want to be like you.
So, for the longest time, it's been, if you want to watch a show, you go to that channel, whatever channel is airing it.
UHF Channel 8 was my favorite growing up.
And, of course, with the invention of the internet and stuff like that, everything started to slowly change, and it's slowly changing still.
Some pretty big changes here recently that I think tie into what we're talking about.
I suppose start off with, let's look at the TV shows and like Netflix.
Yeah. Netflix is still a TV show service, and when they came out, there was plenty of pre-existing material that studios weren't going to continue to air all the time, but made available on Netflix for people to go back and enjoy. And that was kind of how Netflix began to build into what they are now.
Well, with their streaming service, originally it was DVDs. It was
just DVDs in the mail. It was Blockbuster by mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, TV, you get a lot of TV series that were on TV. Once they come out on DVD, usually that's when they show up on Netflix. Like, The Flash, The Arrow, The Walking Dead, Family Guy, everything like that. But Netflix has recently started doing something a little different.
Oh, with the way that they are producing their own shows.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing pretty good with it because this is where we get into the advantages of producing your own online show. Okay, so the thing about producing a show for, an online service and like Netflix could have gone ahead and done it kind of episodic or put out like chapters of episodes, but really all of their productions have been, boom, here's a season. Now you can sit at home with your bag of Cheetos and just stuff your face and become orange and love Black Mirror or Daredevil or they're all pretty good shows too. And it's the thing we were talking about earlier that I really liked about it was that I think a big difference between producing online seasons like this and then versus TV series is a TV series, those writers, they have their main arc and most of the episodes written and they know where they're going, but at any point in the season, if the viewership isn't responding positively in a certain way, then a character you liked a certain way might be, written differently or even eliminated. And then they'll introduce another character in the middle of the season that they originally never wanted to use or something like that. So, TV series are kind of amorphous things that, can change throughout the season in a way that, might leave viewers going, well, where are we going?
And another case for Netflix over broadcast television is with Netflix, they don't, like you said, they don't start off with like a pilot. They start off with, here's the first season. So they don't have to really make that big push and really just make that first episode, everything that's going to catch the eye and then come back to where their original idea was.
Yeah.
It's just, here's our original idea, here's how this first season plays out, boom, here it is. And you're not sitting, you don't have to get everybody's attention on that first episode. You can actually sit there and say, okay, well, the first episode may not have been great. It may not have been what people were expecting or what people were wanting. But then you go straight on into episode number 2 and number 3.
There it is.
And you can keep the story going and show kind of where it's going to go. They don't have to sit there and figure out within the first few episodes, okay, but they still do kind of figure out where do we want things to go? Where is this really going to go? How is the best way to do it? But you're not sitting there hoping that people will come back next week to see how that next episode progresses and how the show evolves into something really good.
Well, well, I had that very same experience with Star Trek Enterprise. Like, if I had been forced to watch Star Trek Enterprise on TV, waiting for it the next week, those first few episodes, let's say the first month of viewing Star Trek Enterprise, I probably would have told all my friends it sucks terrible balls and you shouldn't watch it. But because on Netflix, I can get a good feel from one episode to the next. And I hate that about shows, when you feel like you're almost watching a different show from one episode to the next. That's the amorphous changes that I was talking about. I hate when you get that. And that's what I appreciate about what online streaming services are doing now that they're getting into productions, is they're able to write a story start to finish, and you can just, boom, take it all in.
Now, one of the good things about broadcast TV, as far as that goes, is you actually have, in a lot of cases, you have almost a captive audience as far as advertising. The big thing is a lot of people will watch the 6 o'clock news, or they'll watch Wheel of Fortune at 6:30, or they'll watch Jeopardy at 4:30. They will come to this station for this particular show. And that's when you can say, hey, by the way, we have this brand new, we have this brand new show coming up. Here's our promo for it. And if you make that promo good and you make the show sound and look interesting, there's a good likelihood that those people will come back.
Up next on the Nerdening, live at 7 o'clock, or
with,
whatever.
But with Netflix, you have literally a thumbnail. That is your first introduction for people, is a thumbnail. And then if that gets their interest, they may click on it and look at the synopsis of the show. So now you have a thumbnail and a paragraph to sell people on watching your show. Or movie too. So one of them was one that got it really, really wrong. Was the documentary Blackfish about the orca whales and everything. And the paragraph, we watched it off of a recommendation from a friend, but the paragraph that was up described a completely different movie. I don't know why anybody wrote that about that movie. They talked about orcas as monsters or something like that, and it was weird. I'm like, no, this is a documentary about the abuse of these animals and why they're too intelligent to be in captivity. Most animals are, but still. And that brings us to an interesting conflict with broadcasters and Netflix. As many of you, I'm sure, know, it wasn't that long ago that they passed the Net Neutrality Act.
Yes, thank God.
And I personally know several people who said, we don't need this. This is going to stifle innovation. It's going to kill small businesses on the internet. It's going to be horrible. We don't need this. But in late 2013, early 2014, Netflix paid some amount. I don't remember what amount, but they paid an amount to Comcast to stop Comcast from artificially slowing down their users' connections to Netflix.
Proof that the problem is there.
Yeah, it's there. This is exactly the case that the net neutrality was created to prevent, even though people don't realize that it's there. Now, the problem with Comcast doing that, of course, is they are making it more difficult for Netflix to compete with Comcast cable. Because who's going to pay for Stars or any of those type movie stations when they can jump on Netflix? They can stream it wherever they want, when they want.
Now that pretty much all of those services exist on every smartphone that's out there. But yeah, that definitely is a threat that they would need to adapt to. And with some of the YouTube changes that are going on right now,
yeah,
I feel like that's the adaptation that is happening.
Yeah, I really think that's what's coming, because the end result is, once net neutrality was in place, all of a sudden Comcast is saying, oh, by the way, we're gonna start working towards making Netflix available through your cable box on your big screen TV. You don't have to have a console. You don't have to hook your computer up to your TV. We're just going, you don't have to have a Roku. We're just going to make it so that you can, we pipe it in, we make it accessible through your cable box.
Well, and because it's all digital now. It's super digital now, I guess, is one way of putting it, as opposed to when you still had an RCA cable wired into your house, this big janky looking box and stuff like that. Our first cable box had wood grain on it.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think that may be where YouTube is going. And that's one of the big things recently with YouTube, is they're really pushing forward and notifying people when videos are marked as non-advertiser friendly.
Yeah.
And I think this is where they're looking at potentially going, is saying, if we can make sure our top content creators, if we can push them to be advertiser friendly, we can take all of the stuff that is advertiser friendly and present it to people through the Comcast cable box.
Yeah, and that supply, that service, that makes sense. I do worry a little bit about the kind of, what do we call this? Like adverse censorship. But it's not really censorship, because people are still being able to put their stuff out there. It is something of a feather in my cap, though, that 3 of my videos were flagged for demonetization because they were too controversial, not advertiser friendly. Whatever.
I
must be doing something right.
For Ollamh Productions, we haven't had any. None of them. I actually went through all 35 pages through the video manager. We're up over 900 videos now.
Oh God.
But I went through all of those, and none of them are non-advertiser friendly. They are all perfectly okay. They're all able to be monetized. Well, except for the ones that have copyright disputes going.
Yeah.
Well, not copyright content, copyright disputes.
Or dispute contest.
MGM is, being a bunch of dicks. The BBC as well, but never mind that. But yeah, I mean, none of our stuff has, and we don't stop ourselves from saying fuck. We don't stop ourselves from cussing. We don't stop ourselves from any of that stuff. We don't censor
ironically,
ourselves.
On my channel, I do, because I wanted it to be more accessible to people. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be like T.J. Kirk of The Amazing Atheist and just curse all the damn time, because then that makes it harder for whatever I'm talking about to be accessible to other people. Because they are controversial issues.
But at the same time, there's the whole contention of, are you being yourself? And that was a big thing for me. When I first started on YouTube, I'm not going to cuss, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to do any of this stuff. And I was kind of having a hard time until I relaxed it and I said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do a 2-hour live stream. I'm going to have a cigarette in the middle of it. Or, I'm playing this one game and I want to drink. And when something pisses me off, I curse. And it's one of those things where it's like, and I felt better about my videos, and response to my videos was better because I was being myself. I wasn't being something I'm not. I cuss. I smoke. I drink. I don't tell anybody that they should or shouldn't do it. I do it. That's my choice. And
It's just you.
I think that's a big thing is you be yourself. Be the person you really are. It's like, Philip DeFranco. His whole thing as far as, he's not.
He does current
event
news, at news and stories that are happening right now, and he will occasionally curse.
And maybe that's one of the reasons why one of the benefits of YouTube is you can be yourself. You don't have to have, you don't have this production company sitting there saying, well, you can't do any of these things. Don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, you don't have a board member, like, breathing down your neck going, hey, don't do that, and we'd like it if you wore this pink shirt.
Yeah. Now, that takes us to YouTube and some of the other aspects of online videos and online TV shows, movies, and videos in general. But that's going to have to wait until after the break. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with you in a few short seconds. And we're back. So, before the break...
I was going to say, I hope that was a tasty commercial.
I have no idea. So, next we're going to talk about YouTube. We kind of touched on it as far as them possibly getting into more broadcast type stuff. But some of the beautiful things about YouTube and how this works and why it's beneficial.
Yeah, because, okay, so on my channel, controversial though the topics may be, it's why I approach those. I mean, I don't think of it as me ranting, but I try to, I write and rewrite video essays, and it's why I put them up so rarely. I want to make sure that I'm not, talking out my butt. And it gives me the opportunity to be myself. And I feel like I don't have to curse to be myself necessarily. And I was always worried about being flagged for cursing and stuff like that when I shouldn't have been, but...
Yeah, that's not where they get you. But some of the benefits of doing YouTube is there's no cost for somebody to watch your video. And there's also no cost to host your video. You don't have to sell it to a bunch of network executives that may or may not understand what you want to do. I don't think there's any network executives that would buy this show.
Yeah, it's much more of like a profile upload page, kind of like Facebook or Twitter or something else, only it's videos.
Of course, one of the downsides to YouTube is production money. That's the biggest one, and that's one that a lot of people don't realize is all of this really takes time and effort, and you got to have the mics, you got to have the camera, you got to have the lights, you got to have the green screen. Just to do this show, that's a lot of stuff to have before you can do something. Mm-hmm. And even with, between this season and last season, we added a second mic. That's why you can hear both of us equally well. We actually have a better camera. That's why we can get away with just one camera instead of having, three mediocre cameras.
Three at one point, yeah.
Yeah, we had three mediocre cameras.
That makes editing a nightmare.
It doesn't. It doesn't make it a nightmare at all, actually. I do it. I edit this with one camera the same way I do with the three. But that brings up another issue: is the time it takes editing. Editing this usually takes 3 or 4 hours just to get through all of the stuff that we record and winds up coming out.
Take out the crap parts where we're talking over each other or whatever.
Actually, I usually leave those in because that's
conversation.
We don't pause.
I'm going to talk over you now.
We don't pause when we do that. So the production is a question, and a lot of people don't have a complaint with YouTube because of the ads. But that is how content creators like ourselves make money. So when you say, I know a lot of people who use ad block and they say, well, I don't want YouTube to be making money off of this. It's like, that's fine. They make a small portion of money off of each ad that you see, but you're also taking 100% of the money that the content creator would earn.
Yeah.
Now, counter to that is Patreon. A lot of people use Patreon these days to say, hey, if you like the show, you want to use ad block, that's fine. We do ask that you should go to our Patreon page, and even $2 a month, or,
whatever you're willing to pay
yeah,
to help us produce this show.
Yeah.
And they try to keep their costs down, of course. They never know how many people are going to be paying whatever. I've actually yet to pay any Patreon expenses, but I would like to dump some on a couple of shows that I really enjoy, so.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those things, like I said, that's the answer to if you don't want to see ads on videos, well, then try and help out the content creator however you can. Because otherwise, they're spending their time, they're spending their money making all this stuff, and they're getting nothing.
That makes me wonder real quick. Is there an unspoken YouTuber rule that if you have Patreon or one of the other, support sites, that you not monetize your videos?
No.
I just don't know.
Well, think about it like this. If you have, even if you have a decent number of people that support you on Patreon, but your Patreon account basically brings in a couple $100 a month, and you could bring in 300 via YouTube views or something like that, or advertising through the advertising monetization on YouTube.
That's $500 in your pocket.
If you do one and not the other, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Now,
take the opportunity where it's at.
Now, I do know there are some content creators that say, hey, you know what? Yeah, here's our Patreon, and if I make enough to make this my living, I can pay my rent, my power, my internet, I can, I can buy food, I can, and stuff like that, then they'll take monetization off all their videos. Yeah. Which I think is a cool idea, and I think that's honestly a worthwhile idea.
But I would say that's probably maybe the top 10% of YouTubers. Would you say it's 10% of YouTubers?
That's a difficult thing to tell.
It's hard to tell because we also don't know what their living expenses are and things like that.
So with the production costs, that's one thing, and also again, you don't have to sell your show to somebody before producing it.
Bow down before, and I may not be worthy, but I think I have something you could make money off of.
It's not like, oh hey, well we have this person that will reach a demographic that you guys aren't going to do. Therefore, we're going to slide them in, even though there's no connection, there's no, we've been friends for over 10 years now. There's a set pattern, a set style to it. Throw in somebody that we don't know that an executive thinks is going to, that an executive thinks is going to be the hot.
You know what you really need? Yeah. You need a black female on your show.
Yeah.
That'll make it work. That's the nerdening.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like it's not a we don't want that. It would be a drastically different show if they just brought in somebody that we don't know.
I think a lot of people forget that the triplets, Grant Imahara and he's the only one whose name I can remember right now. They were actually always there with Adam and Jamie on Mythbusters.
The Mythbusters build team. Yeah, they were the build team.
Yeah, they were always there. They were always a part of that. And then they just took a larger and larger part of the show because people liked seeing them too.
Yeah. And they already had, and before they made their appearance on camera, they already had their dynamic. They knew who was good at what. They had that relationship already established, so it worked. And that's the biggest thing with anything that isn't strictly scripted. You need to have people who work well with one another.
Yeah. Another good example of just like a 2-person show would be Good Mythical Morning.
Yeah.
They just do their thing.
Yeah.
And it would be weird if somebody, some producer from a production company that was funding everything, and they had to wake up every morning and come to the studio to film and all that. If some producers, came in and said, well, I want you to change your shirt, and we're going to change the scenery.
Oh, by the way, this came up, so you have to talk about this today.
And we're considering a third host for the show.
Yeah.
That looks like both of you combined. That ruins it. He thought about that too hard. He thought about that too hard.
Totally done without that visual. Thank you.
Were you imagining those two guys together, or you and I?
Those two guys. No.
Freud was right.
Now there is a kind of a weird service that's, and I think if I remember right, I'm pretty sure it's Amazon that's looking at doing kind of what Netflix is. They want to create shows, but they're doing it the same way that a broadcasting company would. They're saying, hey, give us a pilot. We're going to have a pilot season. Here's all these different pilots. Whatever gets the most views, that's the one that gets made. Or if you break this certain barrier, then we'll make your show.
That sounds kind of like some of the things that I've seen on YouTube. Like, there was a CGI... there's a channel, CGI Bros, and they do, the CGI shorts that people from computer graphics schools put out. And there was a CGI video of, a man and a woman on a date, and they have, emotions running them inside, reacting inside their heads. 3-4 years later, we have Inside Out.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. There's been a lot of them that have kind of started that way. But again, with YouTube, they didn't have to sell the idea to executives. Yeah, they just put it out there. Amazon seems like they're wanting to have all the money from exclusive rights like Netflix, but they want to do things the broadcasting way. You present it to them, they decide, okay, well, we're going to make a pilot, or we're going to give you X amount of money to make a pilot. Now that pilot has to be a hit. You have one show to make a hit.
You got to get 1 million views, or we're not even going to think about it.
Exactly. You have to have you have one show to get people's attention, instead of Netflix saying, you got a season. Yeah. You have 24 shows to make people want more.
Well, and you mentioned something, kind of a key point there, that, if we're going to put up any money for you to produce a pilot, what's to say that, so for Luke Cage, like the Hell's Kitchen triad that is on Netflix right now, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. Actually, Luke Cage hasn't come out yet.
No, it's coming out at the end of the month.
Okay. But that triad, who's just, Netflix obviously put up money for that production, but to start with, they put up money for the writing and had some control there. So they created something that they felt was a good product before they ever went to the camera.
Yes, but they're not saying you have to get an audience before you get a second episode.
They're saying, we'll provide you the audience. Let's make sure it's good.
They're saying, make sure it's good, do a good job, but you get a season. We're not going to cut you off halfway through because people aren't watching.
Yeah.
You get a season. Boom. There you go. You are guaranteed 24 shows.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I appreciate that kind of production because it also drives better production value. You get better effects. You're not worried about them cheesing out on the special effects or cutting scenes because they couldn't afford to build this set or something like that. They knew what they were going to be doing from the very beginning.
I mean that has more to do with, honestly, that has more to do with who's putting up the money.
Yeah.
Do you have the money? Netflix may not give you the money that you need to do what you want to do.
But you know that from the very beginning, and you have that to spread out throughout your entire season.
Well, you have you even with broadcast TV, you get a certain amount per show. So, what do you think? Which do you have a preference between on air versus online? Do you think that one is necessarily better than the other? Do you have cable TV or dish, or do you just exclusively look at stuff online?
I think I've only ever had cable once in my life, and that was in my first home, you know. So, let us know what you think in the comments down below. Tell us about some of your favorite shows on TV and online. Let us know what you think.
And, as always, thank you very much for watching.
And stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions
And the American Machine.
We'll see you next time.
Wanna see some
Cheerio.
crazy and also lazy, then you should meet me and my friends. Even though we
That's
got no
probably
money,
for a
they
very
show
good
us how
reason.
funny. Yeah, everything's
So-
better with
oh.
them. We're just like, ooh, ooh, ooh. We don't worry about tomorrow. We
Can't just have one individual character having their own movie. No, we need to layer them up. So we need to take shortcuts. Oh, by the way, we're going to introduce Wonder Woman as well.